Hey Rene, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to chat to you again, and it'd be great to have a chat to you about the importance of having a will and estate planning for those out there. I'm sure now that everyone's spending a bit more time at home, they're probably starting to get things a bit more organised. I've cleaned everything out, and wills and estate plans are probably one of those things that we leave to the last minute. I guess we'll start with that. What is the importance for everyone at home of having an up-to-date will and estate plan? What can go wrong if they don't have that in place?
Yeah, so planning someone's estate is one of it's a great the greatest acts of consideration that many of us contemplate. Many things can go wrong in the event that a will is not drafted correctly. There's several different things that someone needs to take into account when drafting a will, and engaging a solicitor to draft one for you is the best way to ensure that someone's wishes are carried out.
Yeah. So making sure that you do get the proper advice and maybe not picking the one up if you do have a complicated estate or situation, not picking one up from the post office, but actually coming in and having a chat to you about the different scenarios that can happen.
Yes, definitely. Don't recommend getting a DIY kit in the post office.
Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people who thought, okay, yep, I did my will, I went and did it sort of 10 years ago. When are the times that you may need to, situations where you need to update your will?
So I generally recommend that people review their will every 3 to 5 years. Alternatively, when there's been a change in circumstances, so getting married, divorced, entering into a relationship, when there's been a change in circumstances regarding their financial position, those sort of life events, you definitely want to review a will. Doesn't necessarily mean that it will be required to be amended, but nonetheless, it should be reviewed.
Definitely, and I guess if there's not more family members coming into the play and those things change, you want to make sure that that's up to date. So, as you said, your wishes are followed.
That's right.
Yep. Brilliant. Okay, and the other thing we wanted to touch on, so yes, first of all, you are still working, everything happening with COVID, people can still get in touch with you and have a talk with you via, I imagine, Zoom and those kind of methods?
Yeah, so business as usual for us. We are working remotely, however, we have all the virtual capacities to be able to see people and take instructions, draft documents and so forth as usual.
Brilliant. So if people are home and thinking, okay, it has been a while since they last got out, or maybe it's something they've been putting off, now's a good time to get in touch and get those things updated.
That's right. Just contact us in the usual means and we can go from there.
Brilliant. And the last thing we did discuss before filming is what some people also make the mistake when buying property, is knowing the difference between joint tenants and common tenants. And I imagine that has a lot of things where it can cause sort of issues down the track if that's not done correctly or understood at the time.
Yes, that's right. So these terms sound familiar, but they have very different legal and financial effects. So essentially, when you own a property in joint tenants, in the event that you pass away, the surviving tenant will automatically receive it, and that property won't form part of your estate. This applies to several assets such as real property, but it also includes other assets such as shares, motor vehicles, bank accounts, share portfolios.
Yep. So maybe your intention had been that you buy a property with a friend, and if you pass away, your half will be sold and passed on to your family. But if they don't have that correct setup at the start, that actually won't happen.
No, so you need to elect that the property is to be owned tenants in common, and you can specify the percentage. So in the event that you purchase a property, for example, it usually has that option on the contract for sale, as well as the transfer that you execute.
Wonderful. And one other thing that we had discussed previously as well is making sure, obviously will's up to date, that when you buy a property that common tenant and joint tenants is correct, but also making sure that you do have the power of attorney set up as well can be really important.
Yeah, that's right. So there's two types. The first being a general power of attorney that can take into account financial sort of matters, and that can end at a certain date, whereas an enduring power of attorney continues when someone loses capacity, and it's focused on personal care matters such as where someone lives, and medical decisions such as life support and those sort of options.
Great. Well, that's some really good points to cover for everyone, to make sure that they have, checked on those things in terms of, had all those things set up correctly, and think about power of attorneys, because they're the kind of things you want to think about and make the choices on before you have to, and especially not leaving your family in a situation where you haven't made those calls and it's too late.
Yeah, so in the event that one isn't created, and an application to the ACT Civil and Administrative Tribunal may need to be made. So it's best to do it.
Yeah, best to get planned and be prepared for the worst, so that everything's lined up. Well, thank you so much, Rene, for your time. Really appreciate it. And we'll put your details on how people can get in touch with you, either phone, email, or through LinkedIn as well, so that they can get everything all prepared and organised, and use this bit of time working from home to get themselves all prepared. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.